And we are live with another episode of the Keeg Talks. Today, the Keeg Talks, The Ring of Power. It's the Lord of the Rings, Amazon Prime Video, inspired slash prequel. There's a lot to go over with this show. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings and a fan of Rings of Power, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. And today, I got two awesome fans and two awesome people. That's not 4 people total. Both people are awesome people and awesome fans, which is, great for booking. Let me introduce my guests for today. First, we got Lord of the Rings expert. Dare I say expert? Anex Wilson. Anex, are you an expert?
Nowhere close. But I know bits and pieces.
Okay.
And I think the rest of it.
You're underselling yourself.
But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. People out there are like, oh man, I heard Dimithri was going to invite an expert on, and now he invited someone with bits and pieces. What's he doing?
I've read the Silmarillion 3 times, maybe. Twice, 3 times.
What would get you to an expert level?
I mean, I know people who have spent decades on this thing. So those people who have like actual degrees in Lord of the Rings. I'm a slightly more than casual fan.
Okay, are they as likable as you though?
Oh, they're lovely people. Yeah, I love spending time with the nerds. They're like the upper echelons of Lord of the Rings nerds.
I'm gonna come out and say that I don't think they're as good as you. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate that.
Our second guest, and I don't know, did I say that my name is Dimithri Perera and I'm the host of the Keeg? Anyway, moving on past me. My second guest, we got Mariah Carley, who I did an Instagram live chat with, let's just say 2 months ago. Mariah, how you doing?
It's been a while. I'm doing well. It's been a while.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you love Lord of the Rings as much as you do.
I am a big Lord of the Rings. I'm more of an enthusiast. So it's like, it's an aesthetic. It's a lifestyle at this point.
Yeah, that's good. Because you do a lot. Like, you're all over with cosplay and all the different things that you cosplay and that you do online with your content creation. And, like, the fact that you like Lord of the Rings also, I was like, let's bring Mariah on.
Yes, anything to get me out of this world and into another one, that's what I like. So
yes.
Isn't that the plot to Bridge Bridge to Terabithia?
Listen, that movie broke me. Let's not bring that up.
Anex, have you read that book?
I have not, no.
It's a kid's book. But yes, it'll make you cry.
I missed that one, yeah. I think
it's not really a kid's. It's not really, I mean, it's geared towards kids. It's like a kid's book on the same level as Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, adults can enjoy it as well.
It's not like a picture book, like the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Yeah.
It's not like
it has adult elements
children.
To it.
Yeah. If anyone's out there watching us on online, they can see our faces, they can see our social media handles that I have displayed. Then you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Wherever you're watching us, thank you so much for watching us. But if you're listening to us and you can't see all that, that's probably because either your eyes are closed or you're listening to our podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. So wherever you guys digest us, tell us hi. Let us know that you're out there. We're here to talk about Rings of Power, which is it a direct prequel to Lord of the Rings? Is that how it works?
Yes. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's supposed to be a prequel to The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings story, which we do get a little glimpse of what's happening in the beginning of Lord of the Rings, extended edition. So, but we're just making sure that it stays true to what's supposed to happen.
It's a loose prequel. It's like how much can you make it a prequel when you don't have a prequel story? So it's just like taking bits and pieces and turning it into like 50 hours of show. We'll see how much they end up changing.
Is it going to be 50 hours of show at the end of it?
That's what they keep saying.
I guess so, right? Because it'll be 5 seasons. Like they're
8
contracted
episodes,
to be 5
roughly.
seasons, right?
Yeah. About 45 hours, 50, depending on if we get like a 2-hour episode at some point.
Right.
Maybe for the finale or something.
I mean, yeah, it's only a matter of time till they pull like an actual Lord of the Rings, like extended cut length, like series finale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I think the finale will be 2 hours. It's got to be 2 hours.
I mean, just be honest, they took a 1 book of The Hobbit and made it into 3 movies, so they can
Yes.
they can do that with this. So this is like, and technically this isn't a book, if I'm not mistaken. It's like more like an encyclopedia, right? Is this what they're getting the information from? Was from the encyclopedia?
Yeah, pretty much like the appendices of Lord of the Rings and bits and pieces from the Silmarillion.
Is the Silmarillion a story?
So sort of. It's written more like it's supposed to be a history book, history of the elves, and it's written by an elf, I believe. And it sort of starts with like the creation story, and it talks about all the quote unquote gods in Middle Earth. And then it goes on, and then the main story is basically about these 3 jewels. I think they mentioned in the show these 3 jewels that were stolen by the Dark Lord Morgoth, and then the elves go to war for centuries to get it back. And that's basically what the book is. I think the entirety of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is like 10 pages of the Silmarillion. Like that's in the grand scheme of things, Lord of the Rings isn't that significant in Middle Earth. Like that's what Tolkien wrote a story about, but the big climactic stories happen way before that. And that's what the Silmarillion is. Yeah.
Okay. What is the behind the scenes reason? Because I've heard different things for the Rings of Power, like their continuity, let's just say. Like, do they not have full rights to it?
No.
It's because of the Tolkien or Tolkien family, like that. The founding. There's only so much you can say without getting canceled by them. So it's like they own some of the rights and they wanted their legit. So like, for instance, like even Peter Jackson went off of script from the books and everything like that. So like technically, like there you have like the Lord of the Rings, the books, and the encyclopedia from Tolkien himself. But then you have like the movies where it's like Peter, like you have to say like Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson versions, because there are one that the Tolkien family actually made, and it's an animated version that's more true to the books themselves. So it's like this, I would have to say, if anything, maybe this will connect to the Peter Jackson version, like to the movies, not necessarily like the books. Like the books are like kind of like Game of Thrones. Like we've gotten off the books already. There's elements from those that aren't in the book, so they're like it's canon in the book series, but it's not canon in the TV show series, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, it sounds very complicated, but and I should disclose that I'm a relatively new viewer of Lord of the Rings related content, because I had seen the 3 movies years back with a friend who essentially forced me to watch it because I was like, eh. And then he forced me to watch it, and I was like, okay. A little bit of higher pitch of, okay. And then Rings of Power came out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot, But it's funny because that you say that, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Watchmen. So there was, like, the Watchmen book, the comic book, which was its own thing, and it was, it's universally praised and whatnot. I have my opinions. Then there was Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie, which was not as universally praised, and it does deviate a lot from the comic book. And then when HBO Max did their Watchmen series, which was a sequel, like years later, it is a sequel of the comic book, and it's not a sequel of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, that's basically what they're doing. Is it's in essence it's a prequel of the books, but it has a lot of, because you just can't avoid it. It has a lot of like, it feels like a prequel of the movies.
Yes,
just because the movies are so big.
Yeah,
and also like they can't do the Silmarillion because they don't have rights to the Silmarillion. And it's then the simple reason for that is that I think they bought the rights to like the Lord of the Rings, TV rights to Lord of the Rings for like $250 million or something. The Silmarillion would be a lot more expensive because it's got so many. The Silmarillion has so many stories that you could turn into films, into TV shows, into animated shows. It's got so many stories in it that like the Tolkien estate is not selling that cheap.
But they are willing to sell it, just not cheap.
I think they will.
I don't know if they will, because if anyone has the money for it, I feel like it's Amazon.
But like maybe Amazon's testing the waters, right?
That's true.
I think that's what they're doing. I have a theory that Amazon will eventually buy it. To build their own Lord of the Rings universe, like MCU is doing and stuff.
Right.
They're seeing if Rings of Power will work.
Is the Tolkien estate? By the way, is it Tolkien or Tolkien? Tolkien?
It's however you want to say it.
Okay.
I say Tolkien. Apparently, it's Tolkien.
Oh, yeah, I've heard Tolkien.
I say Tolkien.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is the estate kind of like pushing substances? They're like, hey, you want a little taste? Little Rings of Power for you? Not maybe, you know, if it goes well, then you can have all of this. They're trying to get Amazon hooked.
We don't know. We have to. I think it's a bit of both. I think it's the estate is sort of like, they know how valuable the product they have is. Yeah. Especially now in the days of like everyone wants a fantasy show like Game of Thrones. They know how valuable it is. So yeah, we'll see. I think based on what's happening, I think Amazon will eventually get Rings of Power. Will eventually get the Silmarillion. It just makes sense. They will try to at least.
That's your theory, that they will eventually get the whole thing.
Yeah.
If this does well,
and there'll be a lot more. Sorry?
If this does well, right? Because they have 5 seasons of this show, so they're probably going to finish the 5 seasons and then, like, see if they can buy more.
Maybe, or in between, if they're taking like 2 years to make a season, we'll see.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a long time.
Yeah, but there's a lot more like first stage prequel stuff that they can make if they have a Silmarillion. And I would love to see it. I think the stories in the Silmarillion are incredible, and would, you know, like there's like a brilliant love story called Of Beren and Luthien, which I would love to see as like a 2-part film.
Oh,
it would be amazing. Or like Of Durin Turumba, which is like sort of like this Greek tragedy, incredibly dark series, and it would be amazing as like a mini series or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stories, and I think someone would eventually get them.
And he claimed he's not an expert.
I read it twice. That's it. I know titles of books.
Is it?
I want to know, before we get into the actual like Rings of Power meat of this episode, I want to know. Well, first question is whether you got into fantasy as a genre first and then Lord of the Rings related content, or you got into that and then got into other fantasy related stuff through that. Like, what got you into Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all that, the Tolkien?
Well,
works?
I would actually have to say, for me, from a very young age, the very first books like I can remember reading were like the Chronicles of Narnia. So fantasy has always been there, and of course C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends and everything like that. And I actually didn't get into Lord of the Rings until the movies came out, which whenever the movies came out, I wasn't like, I was young. It came out when 2001, 2?
Something
when
like that.
The first movie?
Yeah. So I was in first, second grade. I was a child.
Yeah.
And I was into Disney at the time. So of course that kept my mind in it. I didn't get into, like, I remember seeing the movies, like watching, like my uncles watching it, my friends watching it. It was always there and I enjoyed it. Watched it in school for a literature class and always liked it. But it wasn't until probably about 10 years ago, 8-10 years ago, my ex actually took me to go see The Hobbit, the third Hobbit in theaters as a first date. And I don't know if this tells you about the movie, but I knew exactly what was going on. I haven't seen the other two Hobbit movies, and I hadn't really like sit down and really watch Lord of the Rings. But from that third movie, I knew exactly what was happening, and I was like, okay, cool. Don't know if that means it's a bad movie or if that means it's a good movie, but so that's how I got into Lord of the Rings. And then he took me to go see it because he was like, I don't have time to explain it. He's a big Lord of the Rings. He's an expert. He speaks Elvish. He knows all of it. And he's like, I don't have time to show you the films. I have to watch this. And I just sat there and I was like, okay. So we watched Lord of the Rings together. And now I have a Hobbit background in my room. We're not together. We're not together, but the Lord of the Rings stayed. So.
Right. That's just brought up a lot of questions. Okay. Is the third Hobbit movie a great first date movie? And where was he rushing to that he was just like, look, I got no time to explain. I got no time. I can't go into this. We're seeing Hobbit 3 right now. And you're like, this is our first date. It's like, look, shush.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was I think it was actually our third date because we started like seeing each other and it was like the premiere night, and he's just like, I have to see this. He was like, we have to go to this movie, and that was the very first movie we saw, and I was like, okay, and I just sat there and I just watched him. I think he left the theater very disappointed, but I was just like, oh, I got to see dragons. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, dragons were like the first 10 minutes of that film, right?
Right. And then
and then they died, and then it was just like elves and dwarves just arguing for a while. But I mean, I don't think Battle of the Five Armies is a good first date or even a third date film. I would go with like the Lord of the Rings marathon would be a great date. That's like a great third date.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, since I liked it, then I got to watch it. And you need a lot of time to watch Lord of the Rings. So I think for the first or third date to watch Lord of the Rings, that's a lot of commitment to ask from someone on the first date.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
especially he made me watch the extended edition, and then he told me he's that type of person that has to pause and let you know this is what happened at this time. Yeah, he's that type of person. So it takes a lot. So yeah, but it's okay.
I'm not saying that I would not pull something like that. We have to watch X, Y, and Z. Like, we're gonna do that on a date. I get it. It just wouldn't be The Hobbit number 3 for me. You know?
Yeah.
Then again, I haven't seen the Hobbit
trilogy.
Movies. I haven't seen them, so.
You're not missing much.
No, it's okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was slightly disappointing.
Especially the third one. It's rough.
Were they trying to squeeze the juice out of the concept? Is that why they made it into 3 movies?
I mean, it was supposed to be 2 films, directed by Guillermo del Toro, which would have been incredible. And then he sort of pulled out because I think the studio was being really annoying, and like the studio wanted 3 films. And then Guillermo del Toro just pulled out, and then they're like, all right, we'll get Peter Jackson back in. And Peter Jackson did not want to do it because he was tired after Lord of the Rings. And they're like, no, do the trilogy. And you can tell he's tired. And the third film is the Battle of the Five Armies is like 1 chapter. I think it's something like 16 pages of the book or something. And they turned it into a 3-hour film. And it's rough and it's long, and it's the one of the only Lord of the Rings thing where I like skip forward.
Oh,
I'm just like when I rewatch, I'm just like skipping that. I cannot be asked to watch that.
Yeah. It's
kind I don't think I've rewatched it. Like usually I will rewatch movies and everything, like Lord of the Rings, like Two Towers. I have watched that so many times in the past, like 8 years. But I think I've only watched through The Hobbit 1 time.
That's fair.
And I read the books though. I love the book, but I can't do it.
Yeah. It's funny that I come in at this from a different genre. Like my specialty is like comic books, specifically like science fiction, but like sci-fi, fantasy, and whatever. I feel like disappointment is a concept across many fandoms. The Dark Phoenix storyline that keeps getting made in X-Men movies, but never right. Yeah. So I can empathize. Anex, what got you into Lord of the Rings stuff?
He's British.
It's the thing. We all have to read it. We'll have to read the books. It's the first book we all have to read.
Yeah. Well, as a baby, they sort you into your Hogwarts house and then hand you a stack of token books.
No, they give you a ring and then you have to go on an adventure.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, that sounds way cool.
As soon as you learn to walk, they just give you the ring.
Yeah. A wizard shows up to your house and asks you if you want to go to Hogwarts or Middle Earth. That's what happens.
That's basically it. Yeah. No, I came to Lord of the Rings much later than, because I was like 1 or 2 years old when the films came out, so it was a long time before I watched the films. I read the book first, technically, because I got into fantasy through the series called The Belgariad by David Eddings. It's very much a Lord of the Rings ripoff from the 70s or 80s or something.
What's it called?
It's okay. It's called The Belgariad. It's by David Eddings. I loved it. I loved the books as a kid when I was in like early teens, because the protagonist is like 14 years old and I was around 12 or 13, and I was like, that could be me. And it was very much that sort of thing. So I reread that over and over and over again. And then it was my school librarian who was like, hey, do you want to read something new? And told me to read The Hobbit. And so I read The Hobbit, loved it, understood it, and then tried to read Lord of the Rings and was like, I have no idea what's going on in this book.
Yeah.
Like, people are walking, people are talking. There's a 50-page chapter where they're just sitting around giving backstory. There was a Council of Elrond. I got so lost. But I finished it and I was just like, that was terrible. I hated it. I was like, I'm never read, like, I want to go back to Belgariad and David Eddings. I don't want to read Tolkien. And then it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I think, when because I hated the book, when my friends would be like, you have to watch Lord of the Rings. And I'd be like, no, it's boring. It's just people walking and talking. Like, why would I bother with this thing? So I didn't go to see The Hobbit in theaters either, because it's like, I can't be asked for this. And then it was just one summer where I was bored, and I just I think Netflix had the extended editions at the time. And I was just like, and it came up and I thought, all right, I'll watch this. And I put it on. And I think I watched all 3 films over that weekend and loved it. I was like, this is incredible. Oh, this is actually really good. And then I went back to the books and I was like, okay, now I read it and I get it. I see what people are talking about.
Aragorn's not the same. Aragorn's better in the movies. He's a lot better in the movies than in the
He's
book.
got a character in the movie, but Faramir is better in the book.
Yeah.
I like Frodo more in the book as well. I think Frodo in the movie is a bit, it's a very different character in the book.
What about Sam?
Sam, don't touch him. Don't touch him. We don't talk about Sam. No one dishes. No one. Yeah, Sam. No one talks about Sam. He's precious. He gets protected at all costs.
I feel like everybody likes
amazing
Sam,
in the books. Yeah, he's great in the books. He's great in the films.
Yeah.
Wait, since you're new, I have to ask you a question. How are you liking the Rings of Power?
So here's my backstory with Lord of the Rings and stuff. So the first time I ever heard of let me back up. So I'm a big like comic book science fiction fan. So the first books that I was reading were Star Wars related books, like the expanded universe when I was a kid before the prequels came out, and then Animorphs. I've been bringing this up a lot lately, but Animorphs was like one of my biggest series when I was a kid. And in the book Animorphs, one of the characters, because they're all kids, one of the characters was like, I chose to do a book report on Lord of the Rings, and I forgot that Lord of the Rings is like 3 books in one, so I have to do read 3 books to do 1 book report. So there was like this little joke about it, and but he has to go and fight aliens, and so like he can't get his book report done. It sounds way more juvenile than it is. The premise of Animorphs is being a child soldier and dealing with like PTSD. If you don't know, everybody thinks Animorphs is just kids who turn into animals and that's it. But they're doing that to fight a proxy war in like an intergalactic kind of body snatchers situation, and they see a lot of people die, and it just messes with them over 50 books. Anyway, the point being is that was my first introduction to just the concept of Lord of the Rings. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't really too big into fantasy, but then in freshman year of high school, I joined the fantasy club just for a couple weeks, and they just showed Fellowship of the Rings, but the first half hour of it, and I was bored out of my mind. I was like, I'm not coming back to fantasy club or Lord of the Rings. Anyway, fast forward to like my friend being like, we'll do a night, we'll do a marathon, and we'll just like watch it together. And I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, I watched it with him, and like he liked it, so that kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I have my opinions on Lord of the Rings and like fantasy in general, which is it tends to be very Eurocentric. I'm not a big fan of like swords and sorcery stuff because I think that like medieval times, quote unquote, medieval time stuff is like overplayed a lot. Like we always dive back in that well. And then also the lack of characters of color. And so when Rings of Power came out, I was like, I will give it a shot. I said it was lack of characters of color. They're throwing some characters of color in here. We'll see how it goes. And then I watched it. So if the question is, how do I like Rings of Power, as we're moving into talking about the actual show, I liked it. I want more of it, but I don't know where it's going. I have like fresh eyes on everything. So all these like little subtle hints, I'm not picking up on because I'm not well-versed.
I think, okay, so if you're talking about subtle hints, I'm assuming we can go into spoilers for this, for the Rings of Power, right? Did you have theories of Halbrand was Sauron? Did that ever cross your mind?
Yes. Because I liked him, and that's how I knew. Yeah. Honestly, like, I'd be honest, I was like, oh, I like this character. I was like, because I always go for toxic men, and I was like, well, this is it.
Yeah, this is too good.
Yeah, too good. I would have. And also it was like, I'm usually wrong 90% of the time. So if I thought that, I was like, okay, it's too obvious, right? Because we were like, it's like the signs were all there, but I was just like, oh, that's way too obvious. But I will die on this hill. The stranger is Gandalf. I don't care what anyone says. That is Gandalf.
Is it most likely? I think.
Is he not supposed to be Gandalf, or it's still up in the air?
People are still putting up the air, and I think every single one of you are 100% wrong. It's Gandalf.
I just assumed it was Gandalf.
Yeah, it's Gandalf.
You're most likely right. I'm willing to be wrong on this, but I don't. I got persuaded into the Gandalf camp as the show went on, because at first I was like, I don't want him to be Gandalf. I don't want him to be Gandalf. And then as I saw him interact with the Hobbits, I was like, you know what, this is kind of cute.
Sense.
Like, this is how Gandalf fell in love with the Hobbits, and it's kind of cute. And he'd make a really good Gandalf, and I was like, fine, all right. But then he's going east, and Gandalf, and I was like,
well, he's going east, but doesn't mean he's going to make it there.
You're right. That is true.
Yeah,
that's true.
They said that's where he's going, and they're going to a place where Saruman is already. Well, he could already be at.
Maybe,
So that's who they're going to meet. So I'm just saying, it's him. They're not going to make it there. They're just going to get like halfway. It's fine, okay, and they're going to get stopped.
What's the problem with going east?
Gandalf never went east. They're heading to what's it called? It starts with an R. Rowan?
Rune.
Ron-
Rune. There's like a
Yeah.
proper way to say it, but I just say Rune. Yeah.
Yeah. And Gandalf, in the books, Gandalf never went there. Saruman did, who is the White.
Yeah.
He actually went there. So there's a lot of argument back and forth as whether that was him, Gandalf, or is that Saruman. And I'm like, no. So
No.
Oh,
I don't think
he's
it's
already
Saruman.
there.
It's
is that part of the
Saruman-
theory that that he's Saruman instead of
I
Gandalf?
think he's one of
Yes.
the blue wizards. Saruman maybe, but I think he's too friendly with the hobbits to be Saruman. Because Saruman is not keen on the hobbits. I think he's one of the blue wizards who were two other wizards that I think get mentioned once in the books. And they're like two wizards who went to the east and south. And like Gandalf and Saruman and Radagast were the ones staying in the western, what we call Middle Earth, but like Middle Earth refers to the whole continent. But the western portion, the northwest portion of Middle Earth.
there's too many signs. He uses
yeah.
the white light, he uses the moth,
Mhm.
and he says, follow your nose. That's Gandalf.
That's the line. That's the line
That's
where I was like,
Gandalf.
oh, this is Gandalf. This is Gandalf. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Follow Your Nose is also Toucan Sam from Fruit Loops cereal. Follow your nose wherever it goes. So he could be Toucan
Yeah.
Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it makes sense.
The crossover.
It's a
yeah.
wild theory, but has
Mhm.
anyone put that out there? I don't think so.
I think
Maybe
you
the
just
first
did.
movie.
Yeah, you just
You heard it
coined
here
it.
first.
Yeah. When it turns out to be true. Yeah.
I would love to see in Rings of Power, because again, I have very limited expertise with all this. I would love to see them go. Who's even Easter than Saruman and wherever, like the guys on the elephants, like that just show up in Lord of the Rings, and like that's the only thing. Like you know.
So those are the Haradrim, or the people from Harad, and that's like south. That's like south of Gondor, south of Mordor. They come from way below, and it's like a desert sort of place. So
AKA
Rune is sort of like
Africa.
right next. Yeah, basically. Rune is east, slightly east, but then Tolkien doesn't go into it a lot. But he makes mentions of like in the Far East, if you keep going beyond Rune, there are like empires and civilizations and great places that doesn't concern the story, but they're there and they're doing their own stuff, like beyond what even like Saruman went to. Essentially, like alluding to, if this is a map of the world, alluding to sort of like East Asia, like China, like that far. If you go that far, it's like great empires and civilizations, and I'm assuming they do stuff, but we don't know, and that's as far as Tolkien says.
I would love to see that. That's just.
I don't know if we'll go that far, but I think we'll go to Rune. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, in 5 seasons, we could do a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What were we saying? Oh, Gandalf and I never thought Halbrand was anyone other than himself, mostly because I don't know the lore. So I was just like, he's just another human king. But then they started like doing this thing with the Southlands, and I'm like, they keep popping up Southlands. Is that where Mount Doom is? Like, I thought, like, is that where all that is? Like, I don't know the maps. So I got kind of, I don't think I know enough to be creating theories. Other than I just assumed that guy was Gandalf.
Yeah, I think most people did.
Yeah.
The Southlands thing, though, is when they released the maps, and like they had the Southlands on the map, I think one of the early maps, because I was so deeply into like the people who are like the real proper experts who know the map so well, and they were like making theories, and I was reading them, I was like, oh, the Southlands is Mordor. Oh, those people are screwed. Like, oh, that place is screwed because that is Mordor, and that mountain is going up soon. I didn't think it would be this season, but I
didn't think so either.
I thought, oh, there's gonna be like a second season when Sauron actually shows up, but no, like season 1.
To be honest, I thought how it was going to end. This season was going to end was with episode 7 ended inside the dwarf cave.
Mm-hmm.
That were inside the mountain and everything like that. And I really thought that's how like because I called that from the beginning. I was like, oh my goodness, like their friendship. This is related to the fellowship when they went to, and like speak friend and everything like that. Like I know how that's all going to connect and everything. So I was like, okay, this is how they're going to end it. And what's the demon's name that's inside the
Balrog?
The Balrog.
Yeah, Balrog. I really thought that was going to be how the season was going to end, was with that cliffhanger. But no, they gave us one more, and then they ended with Mordor, and I was like,
yeah.
Yo, dude. Not expecting it.
Yeah. What do you guys have a numerical score for how you felt this season was out of 10, let's just say? And then you don't have to explain yourself too much, and we'll go into everything. But like, what do we got? We got a number?
Yeah, I do. First half was really slow for me. And well, I love it. Like visually, it's a 10. I do think it was really, it missed the mark. I really wish Amazon would have just spent the money and like on Fridays or Saturdays, let this be in theater. If this was in theater and I come back and watch it every week, go to like made a deal with AMC and went to go watch it, 100% this would have been a 10 out of 10 movie because I had so many distractions around me that it took me out of it. And I can only watch it during the day because of my night schedule. So so basically my lifestyle kind of like put a damper on it, and then coming back every week, and I wasn't really into it because I was like, it's going to take me out of it. I want to be submersed into this world. And I really wish Amazon would just like once a week, like let people that want to go watch it in theaters, because it's visually there that this could be in the movie, which they did that for the first 2 episodes for special screenings for fans. And I really think that they should have done this for the whole entire season.
Yeah. There might be American antitrust laws. I'm not quite sure, because there used to be, they've been breaking it a lot, but there used to be a rule that you can't produce, distribute, and exhibit off the same company, because then you're just creating this chain of production to whatever. But I don't know whether that applies anymore.
Yeah.
So
there's also the thing with the rights that they have, that Amazon has TV rights to Lord of the Rings, which is kind of, I think it hasn't been confirmed, but the prevailing suggestion is that because the special screenings that they did for episodes 1 and 2 were free, completely free. And the reason is that Amazon cannot legally sell tickets, cannot sell theater tickets for the show, because they can't show it in theaters for money. Like they can give away free tickets, but they can't charge people for it because they only have TV rights. They don't have film rights.
That makes sense.
That might be part. But I think you're right, because I saw episode 1 and 2 in a theater. And then I saw episode 8, the finale I got on the Friday in like London. I think Empire was doing a screening as part of their podcast. So I got to see episode 8 on a big screen as well, like in a theater screen. And I loved episode 8. I liked the finale so much. And then I went on the internet and people were like, oh no, that was terrible. It was a bad ending. And I was just like, no, I loved it. And I think part of the reason could be that when you see it on a big screen, like the effects show up so much more, and like the way it looks just overwhelms everything else, and you're just like,
I don't know if it's
some
just
things don't make sense, but
right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the effects, like you said, the effects, but I think it also, like, because of the effects, it helps you understand the story better, because the story is there. I believe the acting is there, the story is there, but it just, like, when you watch it at home, maybe it's because I'm ADHD and I can't pay attention to every little detail, but like when you're watching on the big screen, and I'm a little jealous that you got to see episode 8 on a big screen. Like it was my makes friend, you.
It was basically Empire was doing a screening, and they did on Twitter, and they were like, I think the screenings sold out so quickly, and then my friend was just like getting in touch with the people and was like, hey, is there any extra screenings? And so we managed to get 2 more. and that was really, and it was also a really weird experience because we were watching it with basically 300 other Lord of the Rings nerds who like managed to snag tickets. And when like the Halbrand reveal came up and like all those sequences were happening, we were all just gasping and like clapping and cheering at all the right times. So, and I think that communal experience helps as well with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And I think this is a show that's meant to be watched with other people.
That's fair.
I love that. That's the same feeling I got in Avengers, and I actually was like upset about that yesterday because I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to have that experience again.
Oh yeah,
because
watching Endgame.
Yeah, well, that, and also like because for the past 10 years I went with the same 3 people, and 3-4 people every time, and being there with my friends and my family watching it, and opening night being there with a bunch of for instance Endgame, just being there with a bunch of fans, and we were in one of those like theaters that everyone was clapping and cheering, gasping, all at the right times. And I was just like thinking about that last night. It's like, I'm not going to be able to experience that again because everyone's so hateful on everything, can't enjoy anything anymore. And also I think it's because I have to say TV companies and everything like that, and Disney and now Amazon, they're all putting out so much content that it's not, I almost want to say that's like diluting it. Like it's hard to keep up with for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I would say that Spider-Man No Way Home did get close to the Avengers Endgame experience.
That was just a nostalgia, though. That was because of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't because like we've been waiting 10 years for this moment and like several movies. That was only because we're just geeky nerds and we needed to see our nostalgia of our, Spider-Man. That's what it was. We were all rooting for. Yeah, because I mean, also we just gotten out of a pandemic too, and then we've been holding on to nostalgia for so long, and we needed something to remind us. But no, I don't think the excitement for No Way Home is going to. I can't compare it to Endgame.
No,
at all.
No, Endgame was a whole different beast.
Yeah. Or Infinity War was like the way, I don't know. Yes.
How that ended, you left the theater like contemplating like what is life.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say that if you're waiting for something that's 10 years in the making, then you have to wait 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it
works.
works.
If Rings of Power like builds upon seasons and it like keeps improving, then I think when season 5 finale drops, it will be big because like the battle.
Well, we know how it's going. We know how it's going to end.
Yeah, we know the ending. I mean, the ending of this show is the beginning of Fellowship.
Really?
Oh yeah, the massive battle that we see, the beginning of the Fellowship, like Galadriel's speech.
Yeah,
like that is the end of this. It would be like I don't know if it would be the end, but it would be the last couple episodes. Well, it'd be like, I think if they're doing it properly, that whole battle is like 8 years. It's like an 8-year war against Sauron. So I think it could be like the last season could be that war, and so. So Sauron's ring getting cut off and stuff, that could be the last couple episodes. And it could be big.
Interesting.
If they keep spending this much money on it as well.
Yeah.
And then because all the characters that are in that battle, we're laying down their foundation right now.
Yeah. Did you guys give me the score of what you think this season was?
Oh, I can't give a score yet. I have to finish the rest of the seasons. I don't know.
You can't grade this season until 10 years from now?
I probably not, because I did that with Game of Thrones and look what happened.
You were not responsible for Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
It was not your fault.
I got PTSD. It's okay. They gave me I'm obviously watching House of Dragons and I'm loving it, but I'm just like, please don't do this to me again.
Yeah.
Please, I'm nervous.
I think no. They have an ending, right? They have an ending for House of the Dragon. They have the book, and they know how. Yeah, I mean, Martin hasn't written part 2 of Fire and Blood, but the story of like the Dance of the Dragons has ended in the book, so it's fine. I can give it a score. I can give it I think a hard 7.5 I could maybe push it to an 8, but probably like a 7 out of 10.
I'll give it an 8 right now. Actually, no. I would no. I'm sorry. I'll give it a 9. Okay. I'll give it a 9. I give it a 9 because I have other shows that I put up in the 8 spot, and I think it's better than that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll give it a 9. I'm not. Only reason why I can't give it a 10 is because it's hard for me to watch Lord of the Rings on a TV. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it a 6. But that's coming from someone who is kind of almost just getting introduced to all these things. But I see a potential for the show getting better and better over time and picking up pace, and then that also includes my own involvement in kind of the fandom, right? As I'm getting like more and more invested into it. But it's one of those things I don't know whether I can recommend this show to like too many people. Do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, my mom tried to ask me about it, and I was like, I don't have the time or patience to deal with it. So she's a huge like Game of Thrones fan, and just getting her into that and like explaining those characters, like it's a lot. And then I'm at the same time, like now she's like, I never watched Lord of the Rings. Maybe I should do that. Everyone's talking about it. I was like, no, do not. I don't have the patience. Like she can barely understand Game of Thrones. There's no way she's going to do this. So
right. I'm trying to slowly get my mom into like the MCU stuff, because she's seen a good like some of the movies, but she's like in the down to earth kind of movies, like the Iron Man, or like I guess Spider-Man at this point is fairly down to earth, as opposed to like Thor and like Thor Ragnarok and all that stuff. I think we saw Ant-Man, which is relatively like a simple concept. But I'm trying to get my mom more into the MCU. I can't get her into Lord of the Rings. That'd be so tough.
Yeah, my mom, I don't know if she's really into it. She watches it with us and everything like that. But my mom also cosplays as some of the MCU characters and Star Wars characters with us. So she's the reason, like, I don't know if she's really like it. She likes it, but she took us to the movies to go see these when we were kids. So she knows how we are, but she'll make fun of us too at the same time. She'll watch it, and then she'll make fun of us for being nerds. Like, because my siblings are also big nerds, but she'll buy us everything, buy us our lightsabers, buy us, I have an Infinity Gauntlet and everything like that. But then she'll just give it to us. It's like, here you go, nerd.
So do you do Lord of the Rings cosplays?
I do have a couple that just elf inspired, but I am in the process of doing a gender bent of Aragorn. I do a lot of gender bent cosplays just because, obviously some of the women, there's not a lot of women in fantasy. It's always men. And I do see myself like if I'm a movie Aragorn, that's very much my personality trait. Like, love that. So I'm in the process of building Strider version of Aragorn.
When you say the movie version, is the movie version just more handsome?
No, it's his.
I think that's just Vigo.
Okay.
No. In the book version, he's very arrogant. And the movie, he's a lot more humble, but he always chooses to do the right thing every time. But in the book Aragorn, he is very much like, I'm going to do this because I'm the rightful king. I'm doing this because I'm going to be king. Like that type of, that's the type of person I got from it. I'm just like cool it, dude. Now, movie Aragorn is doing it because he genuinely cares and he loves, and honestly, he doesn't really want to be king because of his family history, and he's like, I don't want to be turned bad, basically. Like he knows his rightful place and what he should do, but he's afraid of his family history because he doesn't want to do wrong, basically.
Yeah.
But he always does what's right.
Yeah, I think the clear difference between the movie and book Aragorn is that in the book, it's a question of like when he's going to become the king of Gondor. Like it's just like it's a matter of time. It's just like I'll get there. When I get there, I'll take up the kingship. But in the movie, it's a lot more like, should I do it? Can I be king? Like it's a lot more of a question. Whereas like the big thing is, you know how in the film Aragorn doesn't get the sword till he's going to the parts of the dead, and like Elrond gives him the sword. But in the book, Aragorn is carrying around the shards of the sword like all the time. He's carrying around the broken sword, and the sword gets reforged when they leave Rivendell. Like, yeah, it's a matter of like Aragorn when he leaves Rivendell is like, okay, I'm gonna go to Gondor eventually and end up the king. And it's certainty, like it's just gonna happen. So because of that, he throws around, and so he brings up the fact that he is the heir of like Gondor quite a lot. And like he's Aragorn, and I'm the heir of Isildur, and that comes up a lot. And like that power, he throws around a lot more than in the film, where he's a lot more like insecure and not so sure about it.
Wait, is that where I recognize the name Isildur?
Yeah.
In Rings of Power, is the ancestor of Aragorn?
Yeah, we see him in the beginning of it. That's how this is all. That's how it's going to connect to. See, you're getting it.
Isildur is Aragorn's ancestor.
Okay.
Like 30-something grandfather.
Yeah. But basically, like how
Very
I relate to Aragorn is just the fact that he learns his own worth in the movies. He learns that he's worthy. So.
Yeah.
That's why I like him.
But
yes, he is very handsome too.
Wait, who?
I said yes, and he's also very handsome too.
Aragorn?
And you're doing the Strider version, which is the best version of Aragorn.
Right.
Wait, what's the difference?
He becomes the king, and it's a bit of a downgrade when he's Strider.
Strider is pre-king? Is that?
Yeah, Strider is when he meets the hobbits, that ranger version of Aragorn.
Okay.
And he's all messy, and he's got like rags, and he's covered in dirt.
He basically goes by a pseudonym to hide his identity because he doesn't want to be known at the time as the king.
Of course. I mean, as we all do, you know?
Yeah.
I was looking at the cartoon version of Aragorn because that popped up recently, like on TikTok or whatever. And good thing you're not doing that version.
Have you seen the cartoon version of Elrond?
No.
It's crazy. There's a cartoon version of the Elrond. Has a beard. He has like a circlet of stars. He wears weird. He's got like a really narrow face.
Big old high collar.
Yep. Or the cartoon version of Thranduil. Look up. You haven't seen The Hobbit? No.
No.
But Lee Pace or the cartoon version of Thranduil is very, very different.
Oh, yeah. The elves just in general look different, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The like human-looking people.
Yeah, with pointy ears, long hairs. They're all skinny, all mildly androgynous at times. And
By the way,
that's Peter Jackson's elves.
Every time I hear Elrond, I think of L. Ron Hubbard. Is that normal? The inventor of Scientology?
No, never crossed my mind. No.
Never came up to me.
No, but then again, you do live in an area where
I do live in Southern California. We have there is Scientology, though nobody I know is in it, but you know, it's right there in Hollywood.
Like real?
What's up?
Like people for real, like in Scientology? Because I mean over here anyone. It's sort of just like
it's illegal in the UK, isn't it?
I don't know if it's illegal, but like it's sort of like it's a joke that we make of Scientology over in the US, but I don't know it's like but people legitimately join.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I know personally, but yeah, I mean, people legitimately join because they have it in Hollywood. I think they have like two locations in Hollywood. Because they're trying to latch on to the people who either have money and are in the industry or are very impressionable because they want to be in the industry. That's their target market, you know?
It's wild.
It's neither here nor there. But, the cartoon versions are very, very interesting. When it comes to Rings of Power and these 8 episodes, what was your favorite storyline?
Oh, easy. Well, so speaking of Elrond, there we go. Elrond and
the dwarf.
Dwarf. Thank you. And his wife. Oh gosh, his wife is hilarious. I love her.
Lisa's the best.
I will die for her. She needs to be protected at all cost.
Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah.
It's
But yes, that's the best.
Durin, right?
Basically.
Yeah, Doran. There we go. Doran.
Durin. Yeah. But in the show, for every R, they do a rolled R because it's Tolkien was inspired by Welsh, and in Welsh you have rolled R, so it's like Durin. It's very like
I can't roll my R's.
Can't either.
No, I love doing it. It's Durin, Elrond, Durin. Yeah,
All the
Isildur.
R's are rolled R's?
Pretty much all of them. Galadriel. Well, Galadriel was a bit different. Because we say Galadriel, right?
Yeah.
But in the show they say Galadriel, which is a lot closer to what like Tolkien originally wrote her name as.
Yeah.
And like Isildur and like Mordor is all rolled R's.
Interesting.
Really good. Yeah. But no, I think those three are the best. They have the best storyline because they also have the best chemistry. I think Elrond, Durin, and Disa have the best chemistry. They just every time they're on screen, it's
like I literally
scene.
cried. Like the scene, like when he was like saying like, he's like Elrond was like, he was like, I only been gone for 20 years, and then he was like, 20 years means nothing to an elf, but it's a lifetime for a dwarf. And I was like,
yeah.
How long do they live?
Like 250, I think. 250 is reasonable.
For a dwarf?
300 would be a push. Yeah.
What about an elf?
Oh, centuries.
Yeah.
Until they go
eventually.
west.
Yeah.
West.
Until they're killed until they're killed or they choose to go west. But in the west they're also immortal. So yeah. Elves just live around.
What is the story about Elrond's brother? Elros?
Okay. Elros, yeah. So this is backstory that they alluded to in the show, but I don't know if they have the rights to it. They just didn't have time. But basically, so in the previous age, where they were talking about how the war that we saw of Morgoth was defeated, in that war, Elrond's father, Eärendil, was a big part of that war. Like, he was part of the reason the gods came to help, and he was part of the reason the Morgoth was defeated. So as part of his reward, because Elrond's ancestors, some of them are human and some of them are elves. And so he's sort of a half elf, in a sense, half elf, half human. So the gods basically told Elrond...
Sorry, how is he half elf, half human?
So this is a lot of family trees, but Elrond's great-grandfather was human. Okay. On his father's side, but his great-grandmother was an elf. And same with Elrond's mother's grandmother was an elf, but her grandfather was a human. Okay. And so on his father's side and his mother's side, he has elf and human.
Okay.
In his ancestry. Because there's been like 3 separate occasions when elves and humans had children. And one of them is Elrond's great-granddad on his father's side, and the other is his great-granddad on his mother's side. So because they have both in the ancestry, the Valar are basically like, you can choose to be human or you can choose to be elf.
Like each individual is given a choice?
Yeah, Elrond's parents and him and his brother were given the choice.
Oh, okay.
His parents chose to be elf, and they went west and they live in the Valinor now. And Elrond, chose to be an elf as well, but his brother Elros chose to be human. And then he sort of set sail for the island, and he became the first king.
Numenor.
So of Numenor, yeah. Okay. So, and that's why kind of Arwen gets the choice as well, because everyone in Elrond's family line gets to choose whether they want to be elf or human, and that's why Arwen chooses to be human.
To be with Aragorn.
To be with Aragorn. But yeah, that's the thing with Elrond's. Aragorn is technically like Elrond's like nephew, several hundred I think like 40 generations removed or something, like 60 generations removed. But yeah, the founder of Numenor was Elrond's brother, who chose to be human.
Right. Okay. How long do the elves live if they turn human? As long as humans
Wait. Hang on. Hang on. I did not know that fact. So if that's the case,
Aragorn and Arwen are related. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. Well.
Okay. Wait, what?
Related. Yeah. Well, they're so distantly related that it doesn't even matter anymore. But
right.
Technically, Aragorn Elrond's brother was Aragorn's 67th great-grandfather.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
So on Aragorn's side, it's like a really long time ago. On Arwen's side, it's her uncle. So they're technically related, but a long, long time ago.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing about family trees in real life. If you go high enough, you're exponentially creating numbers that exceed the amount of humans that were ever on Earth.
Yeah. Well, and also because Aragorn has that lineage, like that long life. That's where, because like he's a human, but they have like extremely like longer life than the normal human. Yeah. Yes, he's older. He's like 83.
Oh. In the 80 something like that, 80 mid-80s something. Yeah.
Even though he looks like even in the movies, like he's older, and like because him and someone else was having that conversation, and they were like, I thought your line was dead and everything like that. And he's like 83 years old, but he looks like he's in his like 40s.
Yeah.
Or 30s.
That's part of the gift that's given to Elros. Elros lives for 500 years, I believe.
Oh, okay. So that's the answer to my original question, right? Is like, that's not normal human life.
It's not, no. So the Numenorians aren't normal humans. They're a bit more. They're bigger. They're stronger. Elendil in the show, Isildur's father, is canonically he's like 7'11". He's very, very tall.
Okay.
Aragorn is supposed to be like 6'4". They're all really tall, really strong, and they live for centuries.
It's nice that they're giving short kings some representation with 6 foot something, Yeah.
No, but the heroes of the story are the hobbits, and they're like 3 foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah. It's interesting and weird, but in a good way. Like all this like lore and everything. You got me opening up multiple tabs. Looking up all these people, because when you said Arwen, I'm like Arwen, and then I looked it up. Liv Tyler.
Oh, it's Blake. Yeah, Liv Tyler.
It gets wilder. So Galadriel is Elrond's mother-in-law. Because Galadriel and Celeborn have a daughter, Celebrian, and then Elrond marries Galadriel's daughter. So Galadriel is Arwen's grandmother. So they're related in that way, but also Elrond's great-grandfather or something. The family trees at this point I get confused at, but Galadriel and Elrond are like third cousins, but also she's his mother-in-law.
Okay.
Like the Elvish family tree is basically a circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Still not as bad as Game of Thrones, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when you're immortal, things get weird.
Right.
Yeah.
So both of you guys' favorite storylines is the Durin, Elrond, Disa kind of storyline in this show?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I like the Halfwoods. Yeah. I think it was getting a bit repetitive. Nori and Poppy are great.
Yeah. And I think what happened, I think I was more invested into it when I was like, okay, that's Gandalf, and now there is going to be them two going off, and now I'm like, okay, totally into it now. Like I'm excited to see that storyline next season. But yes, I do love Elrond and Doran's friendship.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the other different storylines and who I dislike. Is there anyone you guys dislike?
Oh, the kid, but he kind of grew on me at the end.
Oh, Bronwyn's kid?
Yeah, first, like it was that storyline did, and it kind of Theo. Yes, it kind of paid off a little bit at the end. But I kind of felt bad. But his hair, I just need him to get a better haircut, and then I'll be fine. It's the haircut.
Yeah.
Like, but that was getting a little. They were spending a lot of time on that, and I was just like, "Take me back to hold on." Like,
I like what's his name? What's the half elf's name that is in love with Bronwyn?
Oh, Arondir. Yeah.
Arondir.
He's a full elf. He's a
Oh, he's not half elf?
Yeah, he's not half elf. No, he's a full elf.
Oh, okay.
Elrond and his family are the only like half elves, technically.
Okay.
Everyone else is a full elf. Yeah.
Okay. I liked him. He was super badass. Question: is he too badass?
No,
he's cool.
Okay.
No, he's good. No, I mean, we had Legolas.
Right.
Like,
we had Legolas skating down a shield. Like,
no, he's not. Actually, this badass is actually quite moderate compared to what Legolas was doing in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So he was doing stuff in The Hobbit that he wasn't even doing in Lord of the Rings, and he was doing a lot. He was doing the most in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So, no, I think I think his is one of my favorite portrayals of an elf because I think he felt so much like an elf, like the way he was moving and he was talking and the way he like acted. I was like, this is like the most elf to ever elf in like a show.
Yeah,
he's the most elfest elf.
Yeah,
like, the way he was saying like sorry to a tree and stuff before he cut it down, like that was great.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like they had to do that, make sure that he is like the most elf because he is a man of color into it, and I think he was perfect.
So that's where the hate's coming from. It's not trueness to the character; it's legitimate. Like
because he's not white.
Yeah,
because he's not white. That's basically what
that's really it.
That happens so much. Like the standards are different, right? Like Legolas can do whatever he wants.
And he's light skinned too. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally beautiful. And then they're still like, they couldn't get the most beautiful man to be like, because they're all attractive elves. Yeah. And I'm looking at him and his blue eyes. And I'm just like, come on. Like, this is an elf. Like,
are those his real eyes? The actor?
I'm not sure, actually.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they are. I just clicked on it and I got this like crazy.
Ismael Cruz Cordova is a gorgeous man in real life.
Did you meet him?
A couple times, yeah.
Yes.
In San Diego. I met him at San Diego for an event, and
You were down at San Diego. That's right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to. I think I was trying to connect with you for San Diego, but like everybody who went to San Diego had so crazy schedules. And especially you flying in. Did you spend a lot of time there or just like...
I think it was a while ago. So I think I flew in on the Wednesday night and I left Saturday night.
Did you get invited? Or did you buy tickets?
Yeah, so I know it was Amazon brought me over and they were doing some like Rings of Power events. So I got into the panel, Rings of Power panel, and there was the day before there was like a dinner with some of the cast, like pretty much all of the cast. So I met him then, and then he at the premiere after party as well.
Rubbing elbows with elves.
Yeah, it was fun.
Everyone,
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, and the cast are legitimately lovely, and they're like,
they seem
it's crazy. Yeah, and they're like proper nerds about it as well. So it's so much fun to just have these.
Are they really?
With them. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
like they're in it.
Oh yeah, I mean the Galadriel, Mordred Clark.
Yeah.
Like, so when we were having lunch, it was I was sitting next to like Knew Better Do Better, who's like he's on TikTok. He's like what I would call an actual expert. Because he knows everything. And he was, talking to her about Galadriel, and she was like responding, and she knew everything. It's like she knew everything that he knew. And it's just like, oh, okay. So they have read the books, and they know the story, and they know, like, they have read not just Lord of the Rings, they've read all the extended material and stuff. So, yeah, it's just so much fun. And they're like, it's fun because they're proper nerds who got like their dream job.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think I have too many jokes. Okay. But yes, Arondir, I liked him. In this show. That being said, the little kid kind of spoiled that story for me. But I did like the story of like this kind of this town that has kind of roots in Morgoth, right? They stood with Morgoth in the past, but how long ago was that? Would have been a long time ago, right?
Yeah, I think in the show they say like 1,000 years ago or something like that.
It's like
timelines are a bit weird.
I think so because wasn't she looking for Sauron for? I'm trying to think how long she was on a hunt for him.
It's all a bit vague because technically like Sauron created the rings and then like Isildur was born like a couple thousand years after, I think 1,400 years after the rings were made or something like that. So the Isildur and Sauron making the rings didn't happen at the same time. But so they're just sort of compressing everything, and because of that, the timelines were a bit weird. I think they said like several centuries or 1,000 years or something.
Okay.
It's a long time ago that it's not relevant anymore. But actually, that's one of the storylines I did like, the way they portrayed like how the elves view the time versus how the humans view it. Like the elves are like, you guys are inherently evil, and you're gonna side with evil again, and the humans are like, but that was a long time ago, and the elves just don't understand that.
You did like that part, or you didn't?
I think I really liked it because it's one of those things that, like in Tolkien, it's something that adds complexity to the story, because in fantasy, especially in like older fantasy, there tends to be a view of like, it's very binary. You're either good or you're bad, and like being bad is in your blood, and you're destined to be bad because your ancestors were bad.
Right.
And so I like that the show was doing a thing of like the elves saying you're bad because your ancestors were bad, and the humans being like, no, that was 1,000 years ago. We're different. Like evil isn't in our blood, and the elves are like, no, it is. You're destined to be evil.
Right.
And like that disagreement, I think, was really interesting, and I think I'm really glad the show did that. It's one of the things I did enjoy.
And then we find out in the show that essentially it's a choice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They make
some of them choose to be evil, and some of them choose to be good.
Yeah.
Well, just like humans, because they're human.
Right. I think
but they're gonna get screwed.
Yeah, the ones who, both groups got screwed.
What happened to both groups? They're the humans that like are just chilling with the orcs? Are they just... No,
they're dead. They killed.
They're dead because they got sent in first, didn't they, in the attack?
Yeah, they killed their own people. And they were disguised as orcs, and the orcs sent them in to basically like tire out the...
Yeah, that's right.
So that was like a mind screwing moment.
Who was the guy who turned the flood on with the sword?
Waldrick, I want to say Waldrick.
Was he human,
right? With W. He was human, yeah. And he sided with Sauron. Well, who he thought was Sauron. But it's like...
But it's Adar, right?
Yeah. I liked Adar as well. I think he was a really interesting character. Like, he was a really good villain for season 1, and I hope he sticks around. Because I really want Halbrand as Sauron to meet Adar.
You know, one thing I was disappointed with that, obviously in that storyline, I really wanted to see the transformation from the elves into help me out.
Orcs.
The orcs. Oh my gosh, why did that slip my mind? I was just saying it. Yes. But yes, the scene, because the orcs were once elves. And I've heard that for, obviously from my ex and then from the stories and everything like that. And like, they used to be elves that turned evil. And I was like, I really thought we were going to see like that transformation. And I really wanted to see that. And maybe we will. Maybe we'll get flashbacks of that.
We still could, I think. I think we still could. I think if...
I thought that's what we were going to get. I thought that's what we were going to get when we saw the elves that were in captivity. Like, I really thought that's what we were going to see them, take them, torture them, and turn them into orcs.
I think it would be like a long time ago flashback, because it was because Adar talks about like how he was one of the, Adar is supposed to be one of the original elves who were kind of turned into orcs, but not fully. And then others were fully turned into orcs. So he was like one of the first that was tortured in that way to be turned.
Didn't he mention that I could be making this up, but mentioned that they were like his children or that they were of him.
Yeah, I think that's what he's alluding to. I don't know. I don't think they're his literal children, but they're like he's one of the first orcs in a sense. Or
but he hates when they die, right?
Yeah, because that's the other thing. So that's the other thing I think the show did really, really well is the idea of orcs being elves. And so Adar is like, we're just you guys, but twisted into this thing, but we still have a right to live. And we have like life inside us, and you can't just exterminate us of like Middle Earth. And Gradual being like, no, you guys cruel and you're evil and you deserve to die. And Adar is like, no, we are just like you. We just have been twisted into orcs. And that was a Tolkien thing as well, where Tolkien initially, when he wrote orcs, he was like, they're evil, you can just kill them all the time and it doesn't matter. And then he was like, and then when he decided that orcs were corrupted elves, he was thinking, but then you can't just kill them off because they are elves. And so you can't just genocide them because that's evil. And so that was something that Tolkien sort of thought about a lot of, like, can you kill orcs without consequence?
Right.
And so I think the show did that as well, of like Adar being like, no, you can't just wipe us out, and Galadriel just being like, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth, kill every single one of you. And it's like, and suddenly it's a bit like, ooh, that's dark.
Yeah.
That's genocide of orcs.
Right.
And suddenly we're a bit iffy about it.
But to be fair, though, the orcs could just, if they would just stay in one spot, it would have been fine. But they don't. They have to go and ravish everything and kill everyone too. So
I mean,
it's like
your
back
marching
and forth.
chant is, when your marching chant is death, death, death. It's a bit hard to root for you.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also don't know the historical. Well, do we know the historical context of the inequities? Let's just say, like, maybe they're chanting death for a reason. I'm not saying they're the good guys. I'm just saying that in their minds,
it's their culture.
Right.
And
and they're getting pushed. I mean, it's either that or genocide, right? Like, if the other people don't even think they have a right to live.
Yeah.
Are
there
at
good
this
orcs?
Point,
No, like
not really.
In canon?
No, because they're made to be evil.
How are they made? What is the I don't know the.
They were elves that were originally like twisted into like what they are now.
With what?
Tortured, twisted.
Twisted how?
Dark. It's Tolkien, so it's all very vague. It's like dark powers, evil magic, twisted and corrupted and tortured into orcs. And then, like, that was the first generation. Then after that, they just have kids.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just have kids like everyone else.
And then you get into the Two Towers, where you see Saruman making the Orcais, and then basically they're just hatching like these macho, like beefed up on steroid orcs that are called Orcais.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. And that one's kind of even worse, because they may be a cross between orcs and humans. Like, breeding orcs and humans gives Urukai.
Okay.
So that's where they come from, which is a bit even worse. But I think in the show, if you think about it right now, the orcs in the show, all they want is to just live in Mordor. They just want to live. They don't want to invade anywhere else. They're like, we found a home. We just want to live here, where there's no sunlight, so we can go about our day. Like, that's all they want right now. And I think Sauron will go to Mordor and be like, okay, you guys are part of my army. We're going to invade the rest of the world. Yeah.
Like Scar and the hyenas in Lion King.
Yeah. Like, they just want to live. They just want a home. That's all they want.
Yeah. The hyenas just
killing
wanted
everyone.
a fair
That makes
shake,
them sound so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were manipulated by, Scar
And I think that's what
Sauron.
we'll see Sauron doing. Yeah.
Has anyone done a mashup of Scar and Sauron? Scaron?
Ooh. I think I can imagine in season 2, once we get more Sauron clips, people will make mashups.
Okay. Okay.
I think Sauron being evil to the song of Scar
Off topic, but kind of getting back into scenes that we liked and stuff. I really liked the scene with Galadriel and we found out with Sauron, like him asking like to basically be the queen, and like he's like, you're gonna keep me grounded to the light. Like, let me just tell you guys, when I would have joined him if he would have said that to me. Like, that's how corruptible I could be. I was like, okay, like you're just gonna bat your blue eyes at me. Like, okay.
Oh, no. I
hold you to the light. Yes. Like, I need help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I can't be swayed a little bit by, a bad girl of sorts, but I feel like at a certain point they're gonna say something like, yeah, and like death to all non-believers, and I'm like, oh, okay, nope, never mind, I'm out. Yeah. I'm good. I'm gonna.
Well, see, the thing, he didn't say that just yet. I think what did pull her to it is when he said, I will rule. Yeah. We will rule and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that sense. And then I was just like, but in my head, I was like, oh, he'll change. Oh
no.
He'll change.
Yeah.
I can fix him.
He shows you, when he shows you that vision of like him and you and in the crown, reflection, and you're like, huh, you know what? This isn't sounding like a bad idea anymore.
Right? Like, that's bad.
We'll work on that, Mariah. I feel like I think I have great qualities. But
he'll change for me.
I would never. I do not think anyone
good.
would change for me. Yeah, so,
no one would change for me, but that's just like that's a toxicity in my head.
Yeah, I can't expect anyone to change for me. I'm past that point. I
also think Henry Cavill, if he knew I existed, would go after me. So it's also a toxic trait. Okay.
Oh, are we just picking our people who would definitely sway us? Because if like Jessica Chastain came up to me, I have a long list of, I guess, people who would come up to me and say, "Hey, you want to rule the world together?" Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So maybe I can relate a little.
You see. See, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, that shot was very beautiful. It was very persuasive. I'm not gonna lie. It was just like a beautiful
the one where shot. You see Sauron with the
oh yes, and then her yes like inside the reflection of the water when they're because it was like a call of them being on the boat and you just see it in the water, and I'm just like first of all that was beautifully shot, and it was just like right there was enough for me. Like I looked over at my brother and I was like, yeah, he got me. He got me. My brother looked over at me. He was like, he got me too.
It's too similar to Rey and Kylo Ren. Like, I'm just like, Rey, don't do it. Don't give in to the dark side.
I haven't seen it.
What's that?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but it's just from the new films, right?
You haven't seen
Star Wars?
Yeah, you haven't seen?
Actually, that's true.
I haven't seen any Star Wars.
You haven't? Wow.
Any of Star Wars?
Okay.
I haven't seen. I know roughly what happens in them, so I'm just like, I don't need to see them because I know what happens.
No, just do it. I said the same thing about Lord of the Rings, and look at us now.
Yeah.
Look at me now.
Look, I
will get around to it. I will get around to it.
I never thought I'd be doing a Keeg episode talking about anything Lord of the Rings related because it's not in my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. I did it, so you got to watch Star Wars.
I will. I keep talking about it. I will get around to it.
Start with Rogue One.
What?
Really?
No.
Mm-hmm. Oh. No, trust me. Just do it. Thank me later. Start with Rogue One and then go to New Hope. Don't listen to anyone else. Do that.
But then you're going to expect Star Wars to be like Rogue One. It's about setting expectations.
No, it's not. No, storyline. Trust me.
I mean,
trust me.
I hear Andor is really good. Andor
is amazing and one of the best things to happen to Star Wars ever.
Mm-hmm. I will just keep it.
Rogue One. Before Rogue One. It's a prequel to a prequel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't have to tell you, just go with Rogue One. It lays out the foundation and it's a better understanding of what's happening in New Hope because there's a lot of gaps in New Hope that you don't really know if as a new watcher you haven't really sit down and watched Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty decent about understanding that was made in the 70s and everything. He's more mature and he's seen films and stuff, so he knows how to get this. But for storyline purposes, it is about the story. I promise you, start with Rogue One. It will keep you hooked onto it, and you'll want to know what happens next, and then go with New Hope and finish it off right there, and then go back to the prequels.
Mariah,
Episode 1, 2, and 3.
You're bringing up a good point.
Yep. But back to the Ben and Ray section that you said, when he said please to her, yes, that got me too in the theaters. Like when he said, join me, please. Yeah, that please, I would have turned.
He
said please. Oh, he just said please. And I was just like, okay, that's all you had to say.
At least Halbrand's different because Kylo Ren literally murdered billions of people. So I think that I can cut Halbrand some slack when he's trying to sway Galadriel.
Oh, Sauron has done some messed up things
before that point
in the first stage. Oh yeah.
But he's trying to.
What we're kind of forgetting now is that
at the point of swaying,
Galadriel knows for a fact that Sauron killed her brother. Okay. Yeah, and like they allude to it in the show, but in the books, what happens is that there's a quest that they go on, right? And like a human called Beren, and like Galadriel's brother, Finrod, is going on a quest, and they get captured by Sauron, and so there's like 11 of them. I don't know the exact. I think it's like 14 of them or something like that, or I think 10 or 11 of them. I think is the number. Sauron captures them, throws them in a dungeon. And then every day, a werewolf goes down into the dungeon and kills one of them.
A werewolf?
Oh, there's werewolves and vampires in Lord of the Rings. That's the thing. Yeah. The Silmarillion is wild.
Why
That's what I mean.
The first time I'm hearing about this. I'm a big werewolf.
Sauron turns into a. If you need to read stories called of Beren and Luthien, it's a beautiful story, and in that there's werewolves. Sauron turns into a vampire. There's a talking dog. It's wild. It's a crazy story, but yeah. Okay. So there's like, so like the 10 of the elves get killed one by one, and the final day, he sends one of the werewolves to kill the human. And so Sauron's Galadriel's brother Finrod jumps in front of it and fights the werewolves, manages to kill it, but he gets badly injured and he dies. So Sauron essentially killed her brother. So, and he's been working for Morgoth and like waging wars and killing elves and humans for a long time. So he's killed a lot of people. Sauron has done some messed up things. And Galadriel knows this. But
could she's just like, be swayed by her relationship with Halbrand?
I think once she realizes that he's Sauron, she's like, oh no, okay, there's no way. Okay. He's evil now. Okay. And then at that point, it's Sauron being like, hey, I might be bad, but you could join me and together we could be good. And she's just like, no, you're evil.
Yeah. That whole storyline of them becoming like friends or coming together won't happen.
No.
Yeah, because Rey and Kylo Ren are in Star Wars a little bit different. They're literal enemies until he asks her to join him. I don't find that very swayable. As opposed to Halbrand and Galadriel, okay, it's a little bit more swayable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh no, it's gone at this point because we know what happens. So there's no sway at this point. She's no. It makes.
And I think the moment is when he says
with Kylo Ren and. Oh, sorry, but I was just saying the Star Wars about Kylo and Rey. It was a little bit more swayable because they were literally like connected, like they had like the same force sense. That's that whole storyline. That's how they explained it. But on this sense, they wanted you to like basically show like her well, of course, trying to help and everything like that, but it's because of her arrogance, of her not being able to rest, therefore brought evil back into Middle Earth. Because like he was going away, he was going to stay away from Middle Earth to repent, because he was going to be prosecuted by the creators for his bad deeds and stuff like that, and he was running away from that prosecution from them. But then he swims up Galadriel, and then she's like so determined to get back there to destroy the very enemy that because she couldn't let go of her revenge, and the enemy was with her the whole entire time, and therefore she brought him back to Middle Earth.
Classic hubris, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Classic.
And then
realizes.
And then at the end of it, the one ring, and then like when Frodo brings her the one ring, and then she was just like that whole part where she goes all crazy and is all like demonized and everything like that. And then she passed the test because that was the final test from Sauron. That brings up that storyline of tempting her to be his queen. I guess you say be his queen again. And then she denies it. And then that's when she's like, I have passed the test. I will go west. My journey has ended.
Mm-hmm.
Does she go? She go to Valinor at the end of Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, the where they're sailing is the same. So it's a really nice full circle moment of like in the very first episode of this show, they sail to Valinor, but she jumps off, and she's like, and it's almost a sort of like, I don't deserve to go yet. I'm not worthy of it yet. And then like 5 seasons, and then like all of Lord of the Rings later, right at the end of Lord of the Rings, it's like, I'm finally worthy to go. So she sails again, and this time she doesn't leave the ship. She sails all the way. So it's like a really nice full circle moment for Galadriel's arc, starting at Rings of Power and ending with Lord of the Rings. Yeah, which is kind of cool. Although her swimming all the way back is kind of...
At the end of Lord of the Rings? Is Sauron destroyed for good?
Near enough, basically.
Do they never get destroyed ever? When you say near enough, you're like...
He can't really die. Sauron is what's called a Maya spirit. He's sort of like one of the angels created with the universe, before the universe. And then like Sauron, like all these angels and archangels and demigods, kind of like half gods. Half gods, they're not gods, but they're like archangels. They're just below God.
Okay.
All of these angels sang to create the world. So Sauron's spirit exists outside the universe. So he can't really die. But when the ring is destroyed, his spirit is so spread out and so scattered that he can't ever come back.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's near enough to death that it doesn't matter.
Okay. Who were the 3 people in Rings of Power? The 3 bad guys that were like a trio? Who were like, oh, you are Sauron. And then like, he's like, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Who are those?
I don't know, actually.
They try to call them like
people, right?
mystics, kind of like the angels of death in that kind of sense. I'm not really sure if they gave them a name.
Yeah,
like
no
I
idea.
don't know where they came from.
Yeah, they're not in the books, but no idea who they are.
Are they
some cult of Sauron? Maybe. Yeah, some cult of Sauron. Because once Morgoth was defeated, it's like the remnants of his followers, keeping the tradition going and being like, Sauron's going to take over, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
At first, I thought they were going to make them... You remember, like, the people who rode, like, those dragons and with hunting Frodo for the ring? Then, yeah, I thought it was going to be, like, lead up into, like, that storyline, maybe? I don't know. I don't know.
They're destroyed now, so...
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They were destroyed.
Well, I mean, it could be more. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
could be.
They
came from the east, I think, right? They're supposed to come from the east, and now it was probably Gandalf is going to the east.
Mm-hmm.
So we might learn more about them next season.
Yeah. Are we gonna see like Smaug?
Probably not. No. Smaug is a long time afterwards.
Do dragons live a long time?
Not that long. But
I think
we're going to see another dragon, aren't we? Like another protagonist dragon that's like supposed to be bigger than him, like Smaug.
Yeah.
I'm not
Dragons
sure.
are up in this. Smaug doesn't come down to the mountain a long time after Lord of the Rings. A long time after the show, before Lord of the Rings. Like Smaug, I don't know the exact time, but Smaug's been up in the mountain for like 100 years, a couple 100 years maybe, max. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I thought we were going to see another dragon. I don't know.
If they do a flashback, we could see a dragon the size of 3 mountains being killed.
Oh yeah, that's
when
what I was thinking.
Elrond's dad slams a flying ship made of mithril into his chest. That's also the Silmarillion. It's wild.
That's in the past? That's before this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, what's the whole mithril
Elrond's
thing?
dad is a... Oh, the mithril, yeah. How do you guys... What did you think of the story of mithril and the origin of mithril and all that stuff?
Wait, did they know that there was mithril before then?
Yeah, mithril exists in a few places. It exists in Valinor. It exists under the mountain. The story of mithril in the show is completely made up. It's not from the books at all.
Okay. Wait,
yeah.
Like not at all? Like it doesn't fit?
The idea, it doesn't fit at all, because the idea of a Silmaril being in a tree is just crazy. Because there's only 3 Silmarils, and at the end of the first stage, we know exactly where they are. Like, one is up in the sky, one is in like mountain of lava, and one is in the ocean. So there's no Silmaril in a tree.
What's Silmaril?
You know, they talked about how there was a thing in a tree and the lightning struck it, and then that lightning created mithril. That's impossible. Like, that could not happen. But that's why also Elrond is like, this story is like made up and like it's a legend, but it's not true. Yeah, it's not from the, but that's one of the changes where I'm like, I don't know why they made this change, and I don't know why they're making mithril so special.
Yeah.
It's already like a really strong mithril. I don't know why they need to like give it the light or whatever. Yeah, that's one of the changes where I'm just like, that's one of the things that brings the show down from a 9 to an 8 for me. Or a 7.5, it's like, it's a change that doesn't work and just messes up everything else. Because if you think about it, like if mithril can protect elves and save them, like Frodo's wearing a chainmail made of mithril. Like he has so much mithril. So like, why isn't he protected from evil all the time? Right? Okay. Like when he gets stabbed by the Nazgul, like mithril should be making them go away because he's wearing so much mithril. So it's one of those changes that just like doesn't make sense with everything else.
Yeah.
Also, they should have what's crazy, also, I would say when you say that about Frodo, I always didn't understand why they didn't just put like the ring on like a mouse or something and just like let it walk around and kept it on a leash, because Sam picked up Frodo, who was wearing the ring, and Sam was not corrupted. So you mean to tell me the whole time they could like tape that onto like a mouse or something?
So there is a reason for that. There is a reason. The ring isn't like, depending on who's carrying it, ring has like an aura effect. So it affects everyone around it. The only reason Sam can carry Frodo is because Sam is just that awesome. That ring is trying to corrupt him, but it just isn't working. This is like one of the bits from the book that was cut in the film, but there is a paragraph in the book where like after Frodo gets captured by the orcs and Sam has to carry the ring for a bit, when he has to go rescue Frodo, there's a moment when he gets the ring and then he goes up to the mountain and then he sees all of Mordor. He's just about to go into Mordor and he sees the whole valley, and the ring gives him a vision, and the ring tells him, hey, you can be the leader of great armies, and like together we can destroy Sauron and you can take over. And Sam is like, no, I don't want to be the leader. And then the ring shows them a vision of like all of Mordor turned into a garden, and you can like be like, well, we can rescue this land and you can be the gardener and we can make it pretty again. And Sam is like, no, I don't want to be the gardener of a whole kingdom. I just want to have my own land, and I just want to have that small land in the Shire. So the ring tries to tempt him and it fails.
Is it because Sam already has what he wants to be happy?
Sam is just so wholesome, and Sam knows what he wants, and he doesn't want big things, and he just wants his whole like simple life in the Shire, so the ring just can't tempt him. And so that's why he can carry Frodo, because the ring just fails to work on it.
Because it's Sam, you're right.
Yeah.
And
because he's Sam. He's awesome. Yeah.
It makes me cry. Okay, we're getting on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Sam's perfect.
Sam is awesome. Sam is the best.
In the show, though, mithril has powers that it doesn't normally have in the other continuities.
Yeah. That's it. Like it can heal the elves, which is completely made up for the show.
Okay.
Like mithril can't. Mithril is just, it's a really valuable metal, and it's stronger than iron, and it's like unbreakable and all of that. But it's just a metal. It doesn't have any magical properties. Yeah, that's the show made that up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did find that was a little weird about that, but I was just like, only reason why I could think of doing that is just to make that storyline more, I don't know, to say, I don't know. Yeah, I would have to agree. I did find it weird because it would have been just fun if they were just mining it and it was just dangerous, because that would still be a big stake because they do need that metal for, armies and everything. But I was very confused with the whole like bringing the trees to life. Was it just that tree, like those type of trees like the trees of the elves, or does it have powers for?
I think they were saying like it's got that one tree, and then like an elf and a Balrog was fighting over that tree, and when the lightning struck it, like weird things happened with the good and evil, and it's a mixture of stuff. It's a weird story, and it doesn't make any sense. And
Okay.
That might have been one of the sections I got zoned out on.
They dilute the mithril and make them into rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of those three are the rings, right?
No.
No. They haven't forged that yet.
Right.
Or he hasn't.
How many rings are there?
20. There will be 20. Right now there's only 3. But Sauron will convince. He gave 7 to the dwarves. 3 of them were elves, which actually weren't actually the 3 elves that have them, but it's fine. And then 7 to the dwarves. And wasn't there like
Sauron gives
9 to men?
Gives the rings
9 to men.
It's weird.
He convinces them to make them.
Yeah, the elves make all the rings. In the story, I think Celebrimbor and Sauron work together to make all the rings. All 19 of them. Sauron makes the one ring on his own. But the other 19, Celebrimbor makes the 3 elven rings on his own. Sauron and Celebrimbor together make the other 16. And then Sauron makes one on his own as well. But the originally, all of the rings were supposed to be for the elves. The elves made the rings for themselves, not to give away. And then once the rings were made, Sauron then he tried to take all of them. The elves kept 3 and Sauron took the others. And then gave it to elves and the humans and dwarves. I think the show might do something different. I also don't want to spoil season 2 because things are going to get dark.
Okay, give me a premise of what you think season 2 is going to be. Wait, think it's going to be, or what season 2 is about?
I mean, I know what the book does, but the show is in a very different place to the book.
Okay.
To the story. Because the 3 elven rings, I think, were made last. So they made all the other rings, and then they made 3 elven rings, and then Sauron made his one ring. But they're doing it in a weird order, so they make the elven rings. So I don't know how it's going to work, if the dwarves are going to make the 7 dwarf rings, or to make the other rings, Halbrand has to go back to Celebrimbor and convince him to make the other rings, but he's already left. So I don't know how the other rings are going to get made.
What if he gets corrupts his mind from a distance, Maybe. And then he does it on his own and everything like that, without him really realizing that's what he's doing, and then. And they take it as kind of a peace treaty to the dwarves and the elves. And then it's not hard for Sauron just to give them to the men, because the men are going to be Sauron, I want power.
Once the elves make the ring, they don't give it away willingly. The way Sauron ends up getting the rings is dark and brutal. And it's going to be rough for the elves of Eregion. Yeah.
Why, he's go in and slaughter him? What's...
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't mean it's going to happen.
He once the rings are made, when Sauron makes the one ring on his own, the elves realize that, oh, wait, he was controlling us this whole time and he was manipulating us. So they, shut him out and they keep the rings and they guard the rings. And then Sauron sends his armies to Eregion, burns that place to the ground, and gets all the rings except the 3 elven rings. And then he tortures Celebrimbo to try and get the other rings, the last 3 rings, and Celebrimbo doesn't give them up. He gives them away, and he keeps it a secret who has the rings. And then Sauron essentially kills him, has him killed, and then uses his body as a flag when he just burns the place to the ground. And he destroys the Elven city. So
which Elven city
is gonna the place where they made the rings, Region.
Okay, that's not Valinor. Wait, no, Valinor is
Valinor is in the west, in the far west. Yeah,
that
so
place
there's 2. Yeah,
that we saw that burns.
Yeah, that city where they were making the rings, that place gets wiped out.
Okay, where do the elves? The elves are in Rivendell, right?
No. So there's 2 Elven cities that we saw. There was the one where Gil-galad was king and ruling, and then there was the place where there's the other city where Celebrimbo made the rings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So one of the one near the dwarf city, Eregion, is the smith, is where the elf smiths live, and all of the elves there get wiped out. There's a whole stories of like Elrond leading armies to protect it and then arriving too late, and But season 2, if that happens in season 2, there's going to be some big battles and some wars happening. Yeah.
Is that what we're missing out on? We didn't really get too big of battles or anything, right?
Yeah, I think this season they didn't want to do battles. I think it was just that one in Southlands, but there's going to be a few in the coming seasons. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of funny to me that like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, that they wanted to keep it away from each other because they didn't want to, like, they want to be completely different from each other. Like, for instance, like the way that the intro itself, they didn't do the map of Middle Earth because Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones, has the map. That's what they were known for. It's like their intro. So they're like, okay, we don't want to be like, Game of Thrones, so we're going to do something different. And then this season, House of Dragons didn't do the map at all.
Yeah.
And I just thought
they did the family tree.
They did the family tree, and they kind of resembled what Lord of the Rings was doing. And I really do think Lord of the Rings needs to have like the map scale so we know like where it's going and everything. It's definitely a show that needs that. And then, like, of course, Game of Thrones is known for all the battles and everything like that. And we didn't really have too many. We had the one.
And the one with Daemon.
Yeah. And then the same thing. And then same thing with this season. Like, they didn't do too many battles until like really the end of it. So it's just kind of like they both were just like, okay, this show's going to have a lot of battles, so we're going to keep it different. We're going to keep it to this storyline. And they both ended up being very similar to like, even like to the T that both of the kings died the same week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
they both the kings died the same week, and they both mistake someone to be another person in the bed with them.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's wild how that turned out.
Yeah,
I think they still feel different. I think Game of Thrones, like House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, feel like very different shows.
Right.
In like aesthetic and a feel and like, yeah. I mean,
House of Dragons for me, it was very much. I really enjoyed the storyline of that one. It did keep me more entertained, maybe because it was shorter, maybe on time. So it kept or maybe it's also because of the fact that I'm used to watching Game of Thrones on TV. So I sit down Sunday nights with my family in the dark in our living room. But versus Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, I'm just not used to seeing it on the TV. So it did kind of affect my viewing on that one. And maybe it's just something I have to get used to.
I think you're right. I think because we're so used to seeing Middle-earth stuff in the film format rather than like 1 hour episodes, it's kind of weird seeing, it's definitely something we have to get used to. Seeing Middle-earth and like Lord of the Rings stories, one on a small screen and also in just like 1 hour episode chunks rather than like 3 hour films.
But that being said, I don't want to see Game of Thrones stuff in Lord of the Rings at all. Like, I was terrified of that. I was like, oh my gosh, like Amazon called for a Game of Thrones version of Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't want to see hobbits and dwarfs, orgies. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not looking for all this. But in Game of Thrones, I'm like, yes, the incest. This is what I'm here for. Dragons and it was.
I mean, thematically, like Lord of the Rings is just a little bit more family friendly. I know that there's death and wars and all that stuff, but
it's about a brotherhood, so it's supposed to be. It's very pure.
The whole theme of the story is very much more. It's more positive, and it's more about like, hey, we're good at the end of the day, and we're striving to good. Whereas in House of the Dragon, it's like we're all terrible people, and we're all like for power.
And that's what we want to see. We just want to see terrible people and dragons, and that's what it gave us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that Mariah, that you're getting what you want then.
Yeah, and I got what I wanted from Lord of the Rings. I got wholesome and I got good versus evil.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have been attracted to the evil. Wasn't expecting that, but
The evil was
we all
very
have
attractive.
our faults.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's all right.
I want to thank both of you so much for coming on the show today and taking time out of your day to talk Rings of Power with me. Both of you do amazing work, and I'm really honored to have both of you here, especially with the amount of knowledge that both of you have. I'm over here being like, I'm here to learn. I'm asking questions. I'm here. You know.
We're going to get you onto this encyclopedia of Lord of the Rings. We're going to come back with season 2, and then you're going to know all the language, and you're going to know all the characters and all the lores.
I follow so many things. It used to be like people used to be like, hey, do you like Lord of the Rings? And I'm like, look, I can respect it, but if I pick it up, like I'm already following so much more stuff. And if I like it, then I'm going to be in, and it's so much. Like I'm already like Star Wars and DC and Marvel and I mean a bunch of other stuff. And it's like, okay, am I adding Lord of the Rings to it now? I guess so.
I'm there.
I guess so.
Hey, I got
There's
Marvel,
only so many
DC.
things you can be. Yeah.
I don't know.
You can only be nerdy about so many things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll never be at your guys'
I got Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and then I got Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. So I got 5. I'm trying to think what else I have. I
Harry
think that's
Potter?
it.
I love Harry Potter.
Oh yeah. I got Harry Potter too. Pirates of the Caribbean. We gotta keep going.
Oh,
Oof.
that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll if we do a Pirates of the Caribbean, if there's a new movie that comes out, I'll make sure to get Mariah in on it.
Yes.
Oh God, trust me, that's my Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, love it. Changed my life. During that time period, you either like the Orlando Bloom from Pirates of the Caribbean or Lord of the Rings. And at that time, I was in Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's just what it was. Which version of Orlando Bloom did you like in the 2000s?
Right.
Yeah, the Pirate of the Elf. Yeah.
Pirate of the Elf.
I mean,
I like the first film. The first film was really good. I don't remember much about the others.
They're amazing.
There's 5, right?
We count the 3, but yes.
But there's 5. Okay.
We don't count the ones without Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley?
No.
Fair enough.
All right.
Those two, like the last 2, I don't even remember anything about. I just know that Jack Sparrow was in them and a lot of stuff happened. That's all I know.
Okay, that's good.
One is about Poseidon's trident. And I forget which one it was.
The last one.
Okay. But that has Orlando Bloom in it. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, he shows up at the end, right? I think.
Yeah.
And a little bit in the beginning, but it follows their son.
Who now plays Nightwing on Titans.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen a couple episodes of that show. It's pretty good.
Titans?
Titan, yeah.
I hate it so much, but I watch every episode.
Is it? I've seen the first couple. I don't know what happens after that.
Let me put it this way. Like, again, like comic books are like my Lord of the Rings for you, where I'm like, oh no, they've murdered my boy. That's a Harry Potter reference. They've killed my boy. Nightwing's an amazing character, but in the show, he's like Batman, but just young and edgier. And
yeah, I don't know. That's my thing with a lot of like DC stuff, and like, it's just so dark and gritty and edgy, and I'm just like, I can't be asked.
Which isn't the source material. The source material is not about that. the source material is hope and legacy, and you have a child that is gonna be a superhero too. And like there's kind of a like that's kind of DC's thing. Like Marvel is supposed to be the edgier one because it's more realistic, but the movies are the opposite.
That's the thing where I'm like, I like the Batman film with Robert Pattinson.
Oh,
I'm just like, can we have a different version of Batman that isn't dark and edgy and moody all the time?
Well, they tried that, and then they gave Ben Affleck hell. So
I mean,
they tried.
Yeah.
They tried. I know. I don't dish Batfleck because I
like
like
a
Batfleck.
non-brooding Batman. I just want like a non-brooding. I guess I don't know. I don't know how it works in the comics. But now in my mind, when I say a non-brooding Batman, it doesn't make sense. Because in my head, Batman is brooding and dark and emo and edgy.
I mean, you can have it all different ways, right? Like if you ever watch Batman the Animated Series, like you get a dark Batman that's still family friendly that has his demons, but he's not so engulfed by it, and he's able to build a Bat family. Because that's my personal opinion. It's like Batman by himself, he's cool. I love him. But the Bat family is where his story, like his real good stories take place, and his character growth is when he realizes he doesn't have to do it alone. But you know, it is what it is. We'll talk later about that one. But I want to thank you both so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you, Anex? Where can people find you online?
I am mainly on TikTok as just at Anex Wilson or Fantasy Anex.
Do you have TikTok. 2 TikToks?
No, the username is Anex Wilson, but then the name TikTok changed it, so now it's not your username that shows up. It's like they prioritized it, so the name that you set for your page shows up on your videos more prominently. So it's Fantasy Anex on TikTok, and then on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. It's just at Anex Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube as well, Anex Wilson. If you want to go and watch some really old videos, I'm gonna start posting more on YouTube as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I look forward to it. You do great work, so keep it up.
Thank you.
Mariah, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and on TikTok, and I tweet a little bit, not much. I mostly tweet about Star Wars on that, but you can find me at Mariah Carley with 2 Y's at the end, and that's about it.
Where'd the other Y come from?
Because I got tired of people thinking my last name was Carey, so I just put an extra Y at it, and it worked. I kept getting spams all the time of people thinking, "Oh, you're Mariah Carey," so I just put a second Y at the end, and then all the spam stopped. That's the only reason.
Right, because they're like, Mariah Carey wouldn't have 2 Y's in her name.
Right. They just said I had to outsmart them, and I couldn't think of anything else, so I just put an extra Y.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Both of you do amazing work, and for anyone out there, again, who is listening to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, they can't see our display names, so hopefully you guys caught all that, but hopefully you follow Anex and follow Mariah on social media. If you're watching us live or watching us after the fact, but you're watching our faces, that's on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Keeg Show. So pretty much The Keeg Show everywhere. At The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show. You can find us. We're on Facebook too and Twitter, though those aren't really our main focuses. Instagram and TikTok are our biggest ones. And then our live streams /podcasts are as well. Thank you both of you so much for coming on. Thank you to everybody out there for listening and or watching. If you want to give back to the show, patreon.com/The Keeg Show. You can find a subscription tier that kind of works for your donation. And we do a couple different shows. We do the Andor After Show every Wednesday night, at least Wednesday night in the States. I know, Anex, that you're 8 hours ahead of us. Yeah, so we will.
It is now 8:00 at night.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yes, we do the Andor After Show on Wednesday nights. We do Comic Talk on Thursday nights, or Thursday nights, and then we do the Keeg Talks here. Now it's every week because we got Wakanda Forever coming out next week, and we're going to be talking about that. So this is a weekly podcast now. So thank you guys so much for everything. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the Keeg Talks, the Rings of Power. Take care, everybody. Bye.